All right, ladies and gentlemen, guys, gals, non-binary pals, friends and family of Frisbee, welcome back to the second of 3 matches in the Under-20 Open Trans-Tasman series here in Tamaki Makaurau, New Zealand. Katapo to come out on defense, Thunder on offense. Great patience as we see a tight match defense from the New Zealand side, able to generate a turn early on. Finn Collins hoping for something to develop downfield, has to engage early. Milne isn't able to secure it. Possession goes back to Australia. There's the big shot. Falls a little wide. And that's exactly what Australia were hoping for, another opportunity to swing back. Moss puts up a big forehand. There's a lot of float. Who's going to go for it? Nobody. New Zealand to come back the other way. Great pressure by the Australian defense. Matt Calder now puts one up, tries to find Moss in the end zone. Cooper putting on just enough pressure to stop that one from coming off. Caleb Milne, full field ahead of him. Engages early, finds Finn Collins on the far sideline. Engaged again. Finds Caleb Milne, far sideline. Puts a big forehand up. Despite great pressure. Great attempt there by Cooper, but he's not able to bring it down as Zabel pours on the pressure. Noah Moss. Matthew Zabel. Moss puts up a big forehand. Who's he looking for? Matt Calder. But he's not able to find him. Hodson for the New Zealand defense able to generate the turn there. Still early days. Spur trying to get open on an undercut. It doesn't happen. The disc chasing, running away from Finn Collins, but he's able to pull it down. Cooper signaling for a deep one. Big layout. Huge layout there by Matthew Zabel, but it looks like contact was made, so there's a call. Possession might remain in the hands of New Zealand. Players just having a little bit of a conversation. Reminder that this is a non-contact and a self-officiated game, so players have to take it upon themselves to learn the rules and make the calls on the field. In this case, they're making the call that a contact did happen, but they're unable to sort of determine sort of whether or not it was incidental, whether or not it had an impact. If players are unable to agree, we've returned this to the last uncontested play. Great attempt by Hodson again. Huge pressure from Matt Calder to shut that one down. In the first point of this game, Noah Moss for Australia to pick up the disc, supported by Andy Chen in the upfield space as Australia form a vertical stack, trying to create channels on either side of the field, give them an opportunity. No isolation cutters. Chen isn't able to secure that one, despite a great bid and a pretty well-shaped throw by Moss, trying to find him in the end zone. My name is Blair Monroe. It's a privilege to be your eyes and ears on the ground for this game as New Zealand face off against Australia. Kartpo versus Thunder. Milne takes an upline from Cooper, puts a long forehand, Spurs on it. Unable to get there. The pressure from the Australian defense enough. Spur having to take a couple of attempts, not able to secure it. Zabel's got to be proud of that effort there. Australia now to work back the other way in a horizontal stack. 3 handlers in the upfield space, 4 cutters in the downsfield, trying to create under and away options for their players to target Moss with the disc marked by Cooper. Big denial by the New Zealand defense on the reset. Some great hustle by the boys in black. Finn Collins to pick up and initiate. Quick shimmy. But it's pressured too tight by the defense to get away with it. A run through by Noah Moss stops Caleb Milne closing out the point. There it is, the drop squat throw. It's a little bit long for Calder to get a hand to it. New Zealand now in a position where they have to work back up the full length of the field. Both teams a little bit slow to get warmed up this time. The score still 0-all. New Zealand to come out in a vertical stack. Milne pressured heavily. Moss with an interception. Great work by Moss. Tries to get away with a low release air bounce forehand. A hard throw in the best of conditions, let alone when it's wet and a little bit windy. Caleb Milne on the near sideline. Has the disc, puts up a forehand, finds Luke Spur. Finds Hayes. Cooper. Back to Collins. Gives himself an opportunity for an upline. Cooper gets it. One-handed over Zabel. Hayes calling for it on the far side, looking for a big crossfield. Collins not able to tow it in. Great work there by the New Zealand offense. Amazing. A long point to start us off, but New Zealand come out ahead. 1-0 to Kartpo, the boys in black, over the Australian Thunder, the under-20 Opens team. This is the second of our 3 matches between these two teams, as the Japanese contingent did not send an Opens team. So, the second of 3 matches. The first one, a dominant performance by New Zealand, going 15-2 over Australia. The Thunder are not taking the sting of that loss lightly. They are coming out firing. They are forcing New Zealand to take their time with these points. They're pressuring them in a way we did not see this early in the previous game. New Zealand on defense. Not able to stop Upton getting the disc. Puts a big forehand, there it is. Ellington not pressuring it enough. But New Zealand able to generate the turn. New Zealand puts the big shot up. Taifa, Kuras Rusman, and Foster to set up the handler set for this Australian horizontal stack. Upton again working that far sideline. Finds Taifa, gets a bite out of the New Zealand defense. Now he puts it just outside of Upton's hands. That same solid handler set, Douglas and Swinson, who have worked together incredibly well this series so far. And a pick's been called. Foster taking the opportunity to catch up to Hayes. His progress impeded by the movement of other players. Hayes with big separation, but nothing comes of it. Leishman puts it up, looking for Ellington in the deep space. The disc is towing the line. He gets it. He comes down with it. A great score. New Zealand, a much quicker point this time. A second break there. Some great work as they go up by 2-0. Cutsbo over Thunder. Great work there. Beautiful score. Nice long option from New Zealand. Not too pressured by the defense on the throw. Definitely on the reception. But Ellington's able to go up and bring it down. Looks like a timeout has been called to try and disrupt that New Zealand momentum. Douglas sending up the pull. Touches down and bounds. Plenty of big chase opportunities. A great layout to keep that one in the hands of Bell. There it is. Moss puts the big shot up. Coldale not able to get a hand to it. Great positioning, but as the disc shifts in the wind, he's not able to react in time. Swinson and Douglas setting up to initiate that offense. Great work on those fakes. Stevenson wants to wind one up. Goes straight through the hands of the targeted receiver. Australia with an opportunity, putting one on the board. Very, very close. Right on the doorstep. Only a few meters away from the end zone. Moss, we know he's got that low break. threads one through, finds Matt Calder. What a score! Australia firing big, firing back early, 2-1, putting it on the board, keeping it to a 1-point game. Some fantastic patience by that offense. Great work there by the Australian Thunder. Great patience there by the Australian offense, putting a point on the board, giving their defensive line an opportunity now to break the New Zealand offense. Upton with the pull. Lewis finds Swinson with a layout grab, marked by Foster. Quick one through to Finn Collins. Early continuation. Woodward. Douglas right in front of the end zone. One throw away from a score. There it is. Finn Walker putting it on. Clinical, precise, perfect offense there from the New Zealand Katapo. Some great work there, just quickly chipping through that Australian defense. Here in beautiful Tamaki Makaurau, sunny as always. The wind starting to settle down, the drizzle coming in a little bit heavier, conditions are quite wet. Temperature dropping a little bit, players struggling to stay warm. The score currently 3-1, New Zealand under 20s, Katapo up by 2. In the second of 3 matches we're going to see between these teams this weekend. In the 2022 Trans-Tasman series. And there it is. The pull goes up from New Zealand. Chen and Moss with Morrissey in the upfield space. New Zealand applying a bit of a zone look this time. 3 players trying to shut down the movement of that disc early. Milne with a big jump trying to shut down that lane up the middle. Moss with a very, very low disc, but it's called down almost immediately. It looked awesome. Let him have it. That's what we're hearing from the sideline. The 2024 World Flying Disc Federation update. The rule of cool. I'm calling it now. If it looks good enough that the sideline go, woo. Okay. So players just having that conversation to try and resolve whether or not it was or was not. But it looks like that's been retracted. The disc is up. It will remain in the position of the Thunder. A great save there by Calder. The disc is checked in. That New Zealand zone immediately back to work. Noah Moss, he's trying it again. It's not going to happen this time. Finds Morrissey. Hoping to use the width of the field, but the pressure on that defensive zone is quite high. Moss trying to direct traffic, trying to say where he wants some of those players to cut to, where he thinks the holes are, how he can hit them. Shen with a great read, great patience, all the time in the world. Big crossfield shot goes to Moss again. There it is, a big forehand, wide open. Straight at Matt Calder. And Finn Collins, out of nowhere, dominating the deep space, trying to put that man on a poster. Mill now to pick up and initiate. Collins with a great upline cut. Great chase by Moss, but it's not quite enough. Cooper retains possession. Over the head. There it is. That's what Australia were looking for. Finds Moss. Supported in the upfield space by Chen. Puts a big curly backhand up to Morrissey right on the doorstep. The lefty backhand. There it is. Moss with a quick give and go. He's wide open, but Calder can't get that one away. The long arms of Finn Collins trying to shut him down a second time. Moss with a backhand. There it is. Hands in the air before the disc is even caught. He knew that one was good. Australia go 2 points to New Zealand's 3. Walker with a great score there. And that's exactly what Australia were hoping for, keeping them in the game. 1 point difference. Already we're seeing a hugely different energy to what was on display during the previous match between these two teams. Australia really finding that mix of calm precision and aggressive forward-moving offense. New Zealand not as strong in this first few points of the game as they were previously. They went from a perfect half in the first game. 1 hold, 7 back-to-back breaks. Now they're just trading against Australia. There's a big pull. Wynn's going to catch it, bring it down. Lewis goes wide, finds Douglas in the midfield. Cooper. Lewis with some quick give-and-go movement in that handler space. Woodward tries to close it off. Comes off the hands. Great work by Foster. Pressured by Swinson. Upton with the disc. Puts one long. Who's he looking for? There it is. A tied game. 3-3, great work there by the Australian side, dropping off the long bombs that we know they're capable of. The kind of plays we were hoping to see in that first game, finding Donaldson in the deep space for a great score. Fantastic break there by the Australian side to tie up the game. Now New Zealand to come out on offense. The momentum swinging in both directions. Great work by Upton there in that point. Once again, that Australian team culture, full team taking the field to make sure everyone's on the same page, that everyone is dialed in. There's the pull by Moss. Goes up high, edges down, a nice little bounce. It's going to catch New Zealand off the back foot. Plenty of opportunity there for the defense to get in position. Swinson able to get one away to Woodward. Has to work backwards. Great pressure there by Australia. And that's exactly what Australia needed there. Huge pressure on that throw. It touches turf. We've got Moss, a dominant handler for the Australian Thunder, marked by Woodward. Hoping to create an isolation route for Morrissey. It goes up, he comes down with it. That's what we like to see. Australia going up for the first time in the series. 4-3, what a find by Moss. To think that just before this game, Morrissey was on the physio table getting his knee checked too. Whatever was wrong with it, it clearly is not slowing him down. Australia up by 1. You love to see it. This is what we were hoping for. A tightly contested game. These two teams battling it out, going claw and tooth against each other. New Zealand with a dominant 15-2 performance in the first game between these two teams. Australia have responded and saying it's not going to happen again. Upton with the pull. Great length on that one. It's going to get carried just outside. We see the call for a brick, Bevan. Swinson to bring the disc to a point in the midfield. 18 meters in front of his own end zone. So there's no positional advantage to throwing the disc out of bounds early. New Zealand did a horizontal stack this time, hoping to. Cooper tries the under. Double cuts, trying to pressure the defense as they set up a bracket, but it's not going to be enough. Collins lagging a little bit in that underspace, but he's able to get the disc anyway. Quick backhand up the line, finds Cooper right in the red zone. Woodward comes back around. Collins gets the disc. Very close opportunity, finds it. To the other Cooper, placing it, Sam Cooper placing the disc gently on the ground. Very respectful as New Zealand put one on the board, going 4-4, keeping it a tied game. Great pressure by the defense there to slow down the New Zealand offense, but not slow them down enough to stop them from scoring. Zealand Katapo to send out their defensive 7 against the Australian Thunder's offense. A tied game, anybody's opportunity here. Anybody's game. Collins with the disc. Signal for readiness is given. Up goes the pull, there it is, long into the far sideline, but it looks like it might curve back in, touching inbounds. There might have been a call there, everyone's a little slow to set. And so it looks like an offside was called, so the disc will be bricked. Zabel with the disc. Finds Calder near sideline. To Morrissey. Calder pressured by Nicholson. Not enough to stop him getting the disc away. Back to Calder on the near sideline. Chen trying to develop something in the deep space. But it's not going to happen. Morrissey with the disc, midfield. Donaldson with the disc. Great layout play by Hayes. Get possession back for the New Zealand side. Lewis and Collins to initiate that offense, finds Spur far sideline. Hodson trying to develop something in that deep area, but it doesn't come away. No pick was called. Lewis and Collins, great defensive positioning and pressure by Morrissey generates the turn there. Great work by the New Zealand offense there to pull out of that bid, to not commit to that disc, to avoid contact. Chen covered by Spur, hoping to develop something in the deep space, but a pick was called. Zabel with the disc. Pops one across. Finds Calder. Hoping to close this one out. There it is, Zabel to finish. Matthew Zabel, some great work there, getting every second or third touch in that point. Able to close it out. Some great work there, chipping away at the New Zealand defense. Amazing pressure, working backwards and forwards, great patience on display. Dean Milne putting in huge amounts of work in that point as well, as Australia go up by 1. The score 5-4. Eavesdropping on the circle before the game. One thing that the Thunder wanted was for the New Zealand side to know that they are here, considering that they are now up by 1. The score 5-4 in favour of the Australian Thunder. I would say they're well on their way to achieving their goal. Such a tightly contested game. We're getting supporters from both sides just double checking what the score actually is. So uncertain as to which team is up, because these teams are incredibly competitive against one another. They are very evenly matched. They are trading back and forth. New Zealand with an opportunity on defense now. Oh, sorry, on offense rather. Upton with the disc. Sends the pull. Going to touch down comfortably inbounds. Finds Phil Collins. Puts one up. There it is. Looking for Ellington. He's underneath it. He comes down with it. New Zealand keen to trade. A quick, cheeky two-pass offense. Nicholson to Collins to Ellington for the score. 5-5, a tied game. Great work by both these teams. Amazing ultimate on display here. Fantastic to watch some of the best youth representatives from both of these countries, leaving everything behind despite the uncomfortable weather. Despite the cold, despite the drizzle, still out here, all cylinders firing, both teams giving everything. Putting up big shots, making big plays. Moss giving the signal for readiness for the Australian side. Waiting for a response from New Zealand before the pull goes off. Australia with an opportunity to put another point on the board here. Coming out on offense, we see Collins again with the disc for the New Zealand defense. Big pull, it goes high and long, a lot of float, plenty of opportunity for New Zealand defense to get into position. Zabel. Andy Chan working up. Gives the disc to Mosk on the far sideline. Puts a huge outside in backhand up. Calder in great position to track it down, but the edge of that disc carries it to Turp before he gets a chance to get there. Huge territorial opportunity for Australia, though. Gaining a lot of ground. Now to just pour the pressure on to the New Zealand side. Shut them down here as they form a reasonably shallow vertical stack. Lewis to pick up the disc. Supported by Collins and Milne. Calling for undercuts early. Cooper's going deep. Lot of separation. Hayes doesn't have the cannon, he doesn't put one up. He finds Spur on the far sideline. A lot of pressure from Bell now. Forces him to go back to find Lewis. Still supported. Collins and Mill, but Calder with a run-through block. Moss, he's going for it. He doesn't, he tidies it up, pulls it back. Chen and Moss working at near sideline now. Calder nearly goes under the legs of Finn Collins. Moss gets vertical, brings it down over Cooper, puts one up and deep. Calder not able to get the read. New Zealand an opportunity. Looks like there might have been an injury substitution there. Which is why Finn Collins wasn't able to chase that disc down a little bit. He did let Matt Calder have his attempt, but it didn't come away. Hayes with a great undercut. Lewis not able to find someone in that downfield space. Milne to Douglas. A huge bid widens up the offense. There it is. Lewis Finding Cooper, near sideline, marked by Moss, works back with Lewis. Pressured by Petrie. Hayes, back to Milne. Bell, very active on the defense, calling for an upline cut. Lewis bails out, finds something in that reset space, moving back, keeping parallel. Cooper's not able to get hands to it. Not secure around the disc. A great cut, great positioning. But Australia take possession. Chen, Zabel, Moss, 12, 24, 48. A great lineup of numbers in that handler space. Quick maths. Chen tries to hit Moss on a great strike cut, but Hayes denies it. Gets a hand in there. An opportunity now for New Zealand. Less than half the field to work. Milne, Lewis, Douglas. 33, 49, 77. Hut! There goes, upshot. Hayes resets to Lewis early. Pressure from Petrie, but it doesn't happen. But a pick was called. So the disc will go back. Hodgson tries to get the disc away, but the pressure from Australia is a little bit too much. There's Moss, puts one up to Calder. Bell's going deep, he wants it. Moss plays a little more conservatively, finds Zabel on a nice undercut, marked by Hayes, goes back to Moss, pressured by Cooper. There's the hammer! You love to see it, Calder's underneath. It's slightly overthrown. The first real overhead throw we've seen all day. An absolute cannon, Noah Moss. Way to put that one up, buddy. Please do it again. You got to give the crowd what they want. Now New Zealand an opportunity. Downey, Petrie, Calder on defense. Lewis, Milne and Douglas in the handler space. Huge pressure there as the Australian defense poach off, trying to shut down that throw. Cooper pressured by Bell on the far sideline. Is he going to be able to get away with a reset? Yes, he finds Lewis on the far sideline. Moss out of position, creating an opportunity. Milne able to secure it over the hands of Petrie. Another pick has been called. As these points get a little bit longer, that fatigue starts to sit in. Those lines picked by the offense aren't as clean. Looks like it may have affected the original throw. The disc will go back to Milne. There it is. Chen says no. Great read there, awareness of where the disc was going to end up, and a great interception path picked by the Australian defense. Now rejoining that handler set. Zach Downey on the near sideline, looking to initiate something for the Australian offense. Tries to utilize the width of the field. He's going deep. Calder nearly uncorked it. Finds Moss midfield. There it is, a big backhand looking for Bell. Jack Lewis denies it. A big wide field reset to Caleb Milne. Luke Spur back to Lewis. Finds Bryn Douglas, far sideline marked by Matt Calder. Tries to put a lot of heat behind that throw, but it looks like there was a touch to it. That's a turnover. Australia take possession. 5-5, a long point. Who's going to come out ahead? "45 minutes into the game of our 100-minute soft cap. Moss trying to do a little bit much, clouds that space, but he's able to get the disc. Threads one through, Matt Calder with a one-handed grab. Great work, puts a long shot up, it's high. There's time. Bell makes a great bid, but he's not able to secure it, and a timeout has been called by Lewis. A veteran call. It's been a long point. The fatigue is starting to set in. The decision-making is starting to get a little bit looser. This is an opportunity for those teams to just dial those heads back in, to stay focused, to get everything back under control, and also to give New Zealand an opportunity to call a set play. They've got an opportunity here to reset their offense, to establish a bit of structure. Likewise, Australia on defense, they might be able to change things up. They'll question whether or not their match defense is working, whether or not it's applying pressure in the ways that it wants to. We've seen them stick to a pretty tight match defense so far this game, apart from a lot of the times in this point where Noah Moss has been carrying a lot of work, trying to pick up extra players, looking for places to help where he can, trusting his teammates to pick up if a player escapes and manages to get free. But whether or not they want to stick to that structure or whether or not they want to transition into a zone, those are the kind of conversations they'll be having right now. It's a tight game. It's incredibly close. Karapo first to break the huddle. Thunder shortly after, as is the protocol with a timeout in Ultimate. The offense have the opportunity to set up whatever structure they want first. Those same 7 players taking the line for both teams. Once they're set, the defense have an opportunity to position themselves however they think is best suited to the situation. Once both teams have recognized that the other is set, the disc will be checked in and we will resume play. New Zealand a little bit slow to start off. They've got their 3 handlers setting up around the disc, and the 4 downfield cutters still in a cluster. I don't imagine this will be the structure they are intending to play out of. Although they might be looking to establish a tight vertical stack further downfield to give those handlers a little bit more room to work with. We know that Douglas and Lewis in particular, very, very dynamic in that handler space. They're able to generate a lot of movement quite easily, especially when supported by players like Caleb Milne. They've got the ability to thread those backhands on those upline cuts and find open players and create that separation and work backwards and forwards across the field, weaving backwards and forwards like the spider for which they are named. We're hearing from the sideline the stack to be a little bit closer, but that might not be the play. There is a lot of room available for those handlers. Luke Spur, undercut. The disc goes a little bit high, comes off his hands. Australia with an opportunity, to the surprise of no one. It's Noah Moss, number 12 for Australia, who's going to pick that one up and look to initiate. Threads one through. Touchdown, Hayes. Not going to let that one through. It's a little unsure who that throw was intended for. Douglas to pick up. Finds Lewis in the midfield. Puts up to Spur. Great pressure by Bell on the mark, trying to shut down those first pass options. To Lewis. Pressured by Petrie. Spur again. Tumble by Bell. Lewis again, just Great work chipping past that Australian defense. As the reset finds Milne. Engage the defender, finds Douglas up and down. He comes down with it, keeps it in hand. Touch on the disc by Calder to shut that one down. Great work by the Australian defense. An opportunity here for them to go one up. They want to keep their lead in this game. They want to keep that pressure on the New Zealand side. And there's Moss. Douglas with a run through. Was it clean? Looks like there may have been contact. That's the call. Regardless of what happens, unless the call is retracted, Australia will retain possession. The question remains whether or not Calder will take it in the upfield or if the disc will go back. Looks like the disc will go back to Noah Moss, so the call's contested. It's as though it never happened. We go back a few seconds in time and get a second opportunity. Cooper on the mark. Moss supported by Downey, looking to stretch the width of the field. Finds Zabel. Threads it through, finds Calder. Bell's going deep. Back under, gets the disc over Spur. Finds Zabel again. Back to Calder, is able to keep it in hands. Quick reset to Moss. And Zabel again. Lots of handler work. Zabel wants it. Can't bring it down. Possession goes to New Zealand. It's been a very, very, very long point. Players getting cold on the sidelines. Players on the field starting to get tired. The fatigue showing. Lewis finds Hayes. Marked by Downey. Huge pressure there, but Milne is able to get away with it. Britton Douglas puts up a big forehand, but it's turning early. Moss shuts that down. Immediately pushes back in the other direction. There's Bell to Zabel. Quick fakes off. Chen, he wants to get open. Finds Calder instead. Puts one up for Petrie right on the doorstep. We are so close to an Australian score here. Works back, finds Moss. Back to Calder. Scrambling a little bit. An option for Moss. Too much coverage, but he comes down with it anyway, despite a great pressure bid by Hayes. Australia up by 1. The score is now 6-5. Some great work by both of these teams. Anybody's game. Great patience by the Australian side to walk away with that one. Great athleticism on display. For Moss to come down with that disc despite the great pressure. What looked like triple coverage from the New Zealand defense. Players on the field just now be grateful for the opportunity to rest their legs. Both teams trying to get warm on the lines. As we kick off the next point, Jake Upton with the disc to start the point with the pull for Australia as they send down their defensive squad. Woodward early. Lewis back on the field despite that long point. Collins Not able to get the separation. Finds Swinson, far sideline. Lots of hooting and hollering from the sideline. Doesn't stop New Zealand getting the disc. An opportunity now. Woodward goes to ground to keep that one alive. A questionable throw from Swinson, but his teammate keeps it. Collins puts a big shot up. It's fading right a little early. It's not going to come back in. Owen Ellington is not able. And so Australia now with an opportunity to go up by 1. A little bit more edge on that disc. Might have been necessary to turn it back in and give Ellington an opportunity to tie up the game. But it didn't come. Australia now. Upton works. Crossfield. And gets it back. Puts a long shot up. Beautiful pull down. Right there by Australia. A necessary break as they go up by 2. Caleb McGregor with the score. A great point there for Australia. 1 point away from Thunder taking half if they're able to generate a break here. The game so far going in pretty much the opposite direction of the first one. New Zealand starting off the series with an 8-0 first half to finish the first game 15-2. Now Australia up by 2, slowly clawing it back. Working hard despite the conditions. Playing absolutely out of their skins. A little bit of a timeout here. New Zealand in a huddle, quick to break. Walker, Moss, Morrissey, Chen, a second Chen. There it is, big rip from Noah Moss. It's going to touch down with a little bit of edge, start to roll. Beautiful work. But it looks like it did roll out the back of the end zone, which allows Katapo to take the disc to the front of the end zone. Had the disc stopped inbounds without crossing the play boundary, they would have had to pick it up where it lies. Lewis with the disc now. Swinson threads one up the middle, finds Woodward. Back to Swinson. Collins to Lewis early. Great pressure on the defense by Morrissey, but it's not enough. Swinson back to Collins, inch by inch. This New Zealand side are hitting these undercuts. Great work there by Lewis to get the separation from Morrissey. But the throw comes away anyway. Chen gets it, finds Morrissey center field. New Zealand scrambling to apply that defensive pressure. Douglas and Moss, a great matchup. We love to see it. Morrissey Works with Chen. Puts the forehand up. He's looking for Bell. But Collins able to shut that down. Off the hands. Great score there by Australia to take half. We go 8-5. Fantastic work there. Give just about anything to see a replay. And an unintentional assist by the New Zealand defender, who touches the disc back into Calder's hands for the score. A great way to finish that first half as Australia go up by 3, closing out the first half of the second game of 3 matches between these two teams, the Australian Thunder and the New Zealand Katapo, the under-20 open side. It is a rainy day here, drizzly in Tamaki Makaurau, but it is an absolute pleasure to be here with Ulti TV to bring you the very, very best in Ultimate. Remember, if you've got some spare change, check the link in the description. Buy a virtual ticket to this event and help us bring more Ultimate to your screens. We'll be back very shortly after this halftime break. My name is Blair Monroe. Thank you very much.
And welcome back to the second half of the second match of our Trans-Tasman series. New Zealand Katapo versus the Australian Thunder, the under-20 sides for the Open Division. What a fantastic first half. Teams trading backwards and forwards. Australia chaining together a few breaks at the end to take half. You may have paid for your seat, but you're only using the edge for it. There are no refunds. But while we're on the topic of money, head along to patreon.com/ultratv and help support us bring you the very best in ultimate coverage in the Southern Hemisphere. Fantastic effort from both of these teams in the first half. A very dynamic score to close out that first half, as a slight misread on the reception turns into a great bid by the defense, who tipped the disc back to the intended receiver for Australia to walk away with the first half of the game, considering that the first game these teams had this morning was a 15-2 impressive victory for New Zealand. This Australian side is an almost completely different team to the one that we saw this morning. We're just seeing these teams warm up a little bit as they break half before we come out to close out this game. Still anybody's match, only 3 points in it so far. Another 30 minutes on the clock before we hit our soft cap. Both Australia and New Zealand have taken the line. 7 players on to kick off the first half. Australia to come out on defense by the looks. We have the Thunder's big shooter, Noah Moss, with the disc. Been doing quite a lot of ultimate quarterbacking today. Some great work by him in terms of distributing the disc, finding those options, delivering a lot of yards for his team. For the offense, Swinson, Collins, Woodward, Cooper, Douglas, Lewis, and Spur. Some great athleticism available, some great throws, great communication and teamwork, some really well fine-tuned chemistry. We'll see who comes out on top for the first point of the second half as Noah Moss sends up the pull. It's got legs, it's going all the way. Touching down just inside the end zone. Swinson a little slow to recover it, but he's able to get one away to Bryn Douglas. Petrie and Morrissey pressuring the reset. Huge bid by Morrissey, but it's not going to be enough. Douglas keeps it. Downey caught out of position. Spur to Woodward. Threads a middle shot through to Cooper. Back to Swinson. Marked by Petrie. Moss looking to shut down Jack Lewis for the New Zealand side, but lets one go through to Finn Collins. There it is, Matt Calder, the big man for the Thunder, manages to shut that down. Moss puts one up to whomst among us. It was a great throw, had just enough edge to curve back in and touch inbounds, which is exactly what Australia would need on a throw like that to gain as much territory from it as possible. Still a little bit of miscommunication there. There wasn't a receiver available. So just getting a disc back. A violation called. So a valid point. The blue cones on the field. A player needs to walk the disc up to the field from that point in order to initiate play. Collins with a great undercut. Marked off by Chen. Douglas near sideline. Spur left alone as the Thunder defense is sagging a little bit. They've got a couple of players trying to play a little bit looser. Lewis gets one away, finds Woodward, chips across to Swinson. Back to Spur. A huge bid there by Milne for Thunder, but it looks like there was contact that interfered with Cooper's ability to play the disc. So that's accepted. Spur on a great upline cut, but it's not going to come. Cooper trying to figure out what his options are. Stall count's getting high. Manages to get Bryn Douglas on an upline. Players are definitely crowding, hoping to get a piece of that and put the score on the board. He has to go back to find Swinson. Back to Lewis. To Collins. Back to Lewis. He's trying to pressure that upline. Great work backwards and forwards. But it looks like, despite Woodward's best effort to keep that in, looks like it's been called a straddle. So Woodward will retain possession, but it isn't a score. Fine Swinson. Pressure's on. Stall count's getting high. Swinson needs to get rid of the disc. Forced to go wide to Douglas, who threads one, finds Cooper. A great look. New Zealand goes 6-8 against Australian Thunder. It's a 2-point game. Great start to the second half for the New Zealand side. An opportunity here for them to carry on with that momentum, to put a pressure on that defense, generate a turn, bring it back to a 1-point game. Australia not wanting to let that happen, wanting to maintain that 3-point lead. Conditions settling quite a lot. Our drizzle has all but dried up. The wind is reasonably still. Seeing some signs of religious devotion from the sideline about the conditions remaining good for play. A cheeky prayer to the gods of ultimate, that the wind remains dead, that the rain holds off a little bit longer. Both of these teams, their players have been working incredibly hard the entire day. First in their matchup, then supporting their countrymen for the matches in the women's division. Finn Collins, huge high pull. Fading towards far sideline, touches down, a little bit of roll. Got a Rusman, starts early. Puts one up by Upton. Collins gets in front of it. Ethan Taifa wasn't able to come down with that one, so it's a New Zealand possession. Milne. Collins has the disc now. Manages to hit Nicholson on the far sideline. Collins with a comfortable undercut. Cooper's going for it. He's signaling for it. Who's underneath? Oh, what a take. What a grab. Fantastic effort there by Sean Nicholson. A great score.
Huge score there by Nicholson to pull that one down, bringing it back to a 1-point game. 7-8 still in favour of Australian Thunder. Katapo only 1 point behind. And again, will their defensive pressure be enough to generate those turns? Australia have a long game, but New Zealand are able to pressure that deep space incredibly well. We've seen it happen a few times in this game already. And there's the pull. Katapo with the strong chase, hoping to shut down the first passes early. 6, 12, 24. Some more mats as Morrissey joins Chen and Moss in the handler space. Douglas tries to shut down the upline. It doesn't get away with it. Moss marked by Milne, but he's still got that forehand option available. He sends one through, finds Zabel. Marked by Swinson, far sideline. Moss going deep. Trying to create a deep option. Morrissey puts one up. It's over the top. That's a turnover. New Zealand with an opportunity now to tie up the game, bring it back to 8-8. Once again, Douglas, Swinson, that key handler core. As it looks like the drizzle's starting up again, the wind coming back the other way from the right-hand side of your screen to your left. Hayes on a great undercut. Slowly being pushed back by the Australian defense, looking for Owen Ellington. Sasha Bell not able to stop that one. Goes back to Swinson. A lot of space on the open side, being targeted by Hayes, pressured by Chen. There's a big forehand opportunity, but nothing's developing in the downfield space, so Hayes is forced to look back, finds Swinson. Nearly getting a touch on it. Great bid by Morrissey there. But it's Douglas to Milne. Wanting to find Lawson, puts one high across the field, looking for Ellington. Pressured by Bell. Great work by Sasha Bell. Huge defensive positioning, great read on that disc, able to stop Ellington, get a clean attempt at it. It's exactly what Australia need, but now New Zealand can trap them back in their own defensive corner. Looks like an injury might have been called. And so we're going to see Matt Calder take the field again. This time for the Australian offense. So the disc is now live. Players are free to move. One more time, Moss, Chen. Joined by Calder in the upfield space. Petrie, Bell, Zabel. Zabel pulls it down despite a great bid there by Swinson. Milne on the mark, trying to shut down Moss. Moss gets away the reset, finds Chen, marked by Hayes. There's a forehand opportunity, it doesn't come. Shuts down the backhand as well. Great pressure from Hayes that we're seeing here. Chen forced to look for the reset, finds Moss, but Swinson's able to shut down the continuation. Milne pressuring it. Moss finds a shot to Matt Calder on the far sideline, marked by Douglas. Not a lot happening downfield, but Zabel gets free of Swinson. Finds it, a quick pump fake to shift the defense out of the way. Creates a hole, finds Sasha Bell, pops across to Noah Moss. There it is, a big shot going up. Bell wants it. Who's got the read? And that looks like a point. No call as to whether or not it was in or out. It was a real borderline. You could see the tape on the field be lifted up on the far sideline. Thunder are calling it in. New Zealand don't have a position to argue. They're going to call that one a point. It goes 9-7. Australia Thunder up by 2 over the New Zealand Katapo in the second of our 3 matches between these two Trans-Tasman teams. The New Zealand Under-20 Opens team and the Australian Under-20 Opens team. What a fantastic game so far, so tightly contested. The Australians really have found another gear as we come to the second half, the eventual conclusion of our first day of this Tri-Series, New Zealand, Australia, Japan, all here in the one place, Tamaki Makaurau 2022. Some great work by all of these teams. We are very fortunate to bring you not only this game, but the last game for the day after this, which looks to be a match between the New Zealand under-20 women's and the Japanese under-20 women's. Australia up by 2. This is exactly what the sport of ultimate is all about. The tightest of margins between winners and losers. Teams leaving everything they can behind. There goes the pull for the Australian side. It's going to touch down, get a little bit of roll. Brent Douglas takes some easy yards with that one. Swinson manages to sell Foster. Some great movement there, but there's the big forehand. Cooper wants to get underneath it. So does Spur, who's got it. Cooper's got it, wants to close out. There it is to Spur for the score. Quick work by the New Zealand side as we go back to a 1-point game, 9-8, still currently in favour of Australian Thunder. But there is only 1 point in it. Karapo have not given up a slightest amount. Some great hustle by the boys in black. You love to see it. This is why we came here, folks. This is why there are so many people out in umbrellas braving the weather, because this is the very best sport in all the world, even though we're playing on a football turf. Really, they're playing on an ultimate turf. But some great athleticism, some great vision, sports awareness, sportsmanship is on display here. That's why people are out braving the cold, braving the weather, because this is what it's all about. This is what we want to see. A little less than 15 minutes on the clock. 9-8 in a game to 15. If we hit that soft cap, if that soft cap goes, we'll conclude the point being currently played. We'll add 1 to the highest score, and then both teams will race to that number. So if the hooter had gone off during that point, it gets scored. The highest is 9. We'd add 1 to that. We would be playing to 10. We will remind you of that as we come a little bit closer to that soft cap. If we make it that far, Australia 6 points away from victory. New Zealand 7 at the moment. Anybody's game. Caleb Milne with the disc to start things off for the New Zealand defense. Chen, Zabel, Bell, Morrissey, Moss. For the offense, a wobbly pull. It's going to touch down. Questionable decision there on the New Zealand defensive line. It's going to give Australia a very short field to work in if they're able to work quickly. New Zealand needing to really pile on the pressure in order to stop the score from happening there. Caleb Milne doing a great job shutting that down. Cooper shutting down anything happening in the downfield space. Morrissey and Moss working together, hoping to develop something in that end zone. Morrissey tries to jump it in from far too far back. That's a man who did not focus on long jump at high school, but it looks like a call's been made. So just a little bit of communication between the players. They figure out what's going on. Moss, an early reset, pressured by Cooper. Milne doing a great job of shutting down that isolation cut. Moss has to work back with Morrissey. Using the width of the field. Cooper, huge amount of pressure there. An option. Moss pulls it down, but it's marked not in. There it is. Morrissey with the score. Great little upline cut, chipped in as Australia go 10-8. And I've just been hosed by the rainfall from the top of our marquee. But it's not enough to dampen my spirits, nor is the drizzle enough to dampen the spirits of the Australian side as they go back up by 2. Some great work by that side. Morrissey with the jump in for the score. Some fantastic work by that Australian team. New Zealand now with an opportunity to come back out on offense. Such a hotly contested game, only 2 points in it. Jake Upton with the disc for the Australian pull. Nice low pull, a little bit of edge, fades out to the far sideline. Fielded early by Douglas and Swinson again. Swinson winds up a hammer, but it doesn't come away. Douglas marked by Foster. Woodward, Swinson working now. Cooper wide open on the near sideline. Spur wide open again, not marked tight enough. Jack Lewis, near sideline. Kodar Usman on defense. Forces it back towards the midfield. Swinson to Cooper. Swinson there as an option. Cooper doesn't engage, finds Lewis on the far sideline. Woodward looking for a deep cut. Doesn't come. Neither does Spurs under. There's Swinson looking to target. Walker, near sideline, back to Swinson in centre field. Signaling where he wants it. There's the separation, but pulls the defense out of the way. Spur toes it in just on the edge of the field. Nice backhand around to Swinson. Where's the support? Finds Douglas. Foster looking to stop the next throw. Finds Cooper. Right on the doorstep. This is what New Zealand need. Where's the option? Puts it out. Great score there. Woodward walks away with it. That's what New Zealand were hoping for to bring it back to a 1-point game. 10-9, still in favour of the Australian Thunder. Such a tight game. Amazing pressure by both of these teams. Amazing intensity on display from both sides. The real winners on the day are you lucky folk at home who get to watch such an intense game of Ultimate. Hopefully New Zealand will make a couple of better decisions in terms of who to give the disc to pull this time. With a point difference in this game, such a hotly contested game, everything makes a difference. The more yards you can gain off that first throw The quicker your defense can set, the better an opportunity you have to pressure the offense and generate those turns that are necessary when you're only 1 point behind. Bell, Petrie, Moss, Milne for the offense. There's Douglas with the disc, sends a big one, a lot of float behind it. This is an opportunity for New Zealand to get underneath it. Chenfields nearly missed throws, that's a touch. Hayes gets it. Swinson with the patience, puts one through, finds Hayes, there it is. 10-10. That's bookends for Hayes. The double happiness, as they call it. Gets a touch on the disc to generate the turn and then closes that out with the score. That's great hustle from Hayes to get down, shut down that pass, recognizing there was air underneath that disc, that there was going to be a float. He had the time to get there. He poured that pressure on, got in front of it, managed to get a touch, kept it out of the hands of the offense, and then Swinson with the patience, able to hold onto that disc and not go for that immediate break throw, which may have generated a turn back the other way. Waiting until he knew his teammate had great position and great separation, and then trusted that throw. Floated it out into space for a great chase down by Hayes to bring it back to a tied game. Fantastic work by New Zealand. A timeout has been called. By my watch, we have about 5 minutes left in the soft cap. We have about 5 minutes left before we hit that time cap. We'll conclude the point being played, add 1 to the highest score, and then both teams are just racing to that number. With a game like this, 10-10, where it's so tight, the margins are basically non-existent. Every single point makes a difference from here on out. When Australia were up by 3 at the beginning of the game, 5-2, we saw that it was a completely different team than in the previous game earlier this morning. And now it's 10-10, both teams getting fired up, both teams working hard. Every single point counts. Such a closely fought game. Both of these teams have demonstrated how badly they're willing to work for it. Douglas with the disc to pull. Sends it up. It's got a lot of length. Chen fakes off Moss, who joins that handler space, looking to develop a little bit of momentum before they try and break big downfield. Moss with a big layout bid. He's not able to pull it down. 10, 15 meters from the end zone. Swinson to pick up and initiate. Quick recenter to Douglas. Great layout by the defense there. Generates a turn back the other way. Ellington tries to get low to keep it. Can't do it. Moss works that far sideline, finds Milne, pressured by Douglas. Moss gets the reset again. Bell gets the disc. Hayes tries to shut down the reset, but Chen gets it anyway. A little bit of a stumble. It is a non-contact sport, lads. Great work by Cooper. Great work trying to shut down that reset, but Chen gets it anyway. And it's just outside. Dean Milne not able to secure it. New Zealand with a great opportunity here. Lewis on the doorstep, but a pick was called. As for whether or not that may have occurred before the throw, with an interrupted Bell's attempt to pursue the disc. Evidently not. Lewis, one throw away from taking the lead for the first time in this game. Looks to recenter to Swinson. Back to Lewis. Swinson finds Lawson. There it is. Cooper pulls it down. 11-10. New Zealand take the lead. Early dominance from the Australian side, slowly being chipped away by New Zealand perseverance. And finally, New Zealand go up by 1. 11-10. 1 minute on the clock. So it looks like, if my calculations are correct, that we will play this point, and at the conclusion of this point, we will add 1 to the highest score and go from there. So it's either going to be a game to 12 or a game to 13, depending on the outcome of this next point. A 1-point game. We have hit soft cap. We will play this point, add 1 to the highest score, and use that to determine what the scoreline must be for one of these teams to walk away a victor. Katupa boys warming up a little with the disc. Dialing in those throws, hoping to generate a turn. And making sure that they're able to execute going back the other way. Australia looking for a perfect hold here. No turns, just a score. If they can do that, it puts them within 1 of winning the game. If New Zealand are able to generate a break, it puts Australia within 3 of winning a game. And so being one of those crucial lines, we might see coaches being a little bit more particular about who takes the field. That balance between who's got the freshest legs and who's got the grit and the determination to execute when under fatigue. McGregor, Upton, Foster, Kota Rusman, Taifa. And there's the pull. Douglas puts one up. A gentle chase from the New Zealand side as the disc goes out of bounds. We see the signal for a brick being called. Australia once again setting up in that horizontal stack. Kota Rusman, Foster, and Taifa in that upfield space, looking to initiate something in the downfield. Upton gets it despite double coverage, puts a big shot up. Australia goes up early, not able to pull it down. This is what New Zealand are hoping for. Swinson with the disc. Cooper going long, he's got the separation. Hayes works back to Swinson. Disc is low, but Lewis gets lower to stay underneath it.
And an uncharacteristic error by Swinson gives the possession back to Australia. Strong focus here by the Australian side. There's the touch. Hayes goes full horizontal to get a touch on that and disrupt that otherwise very smooth throw. Hayes with separation from Kotarusman, but it's close enough that Swinson doesn't want to take the risk. There's Waller. Douglas. Walker's going deep. Douglas takes it. Calling for undercuts. Ellington's there. He shoots for Hayes instead. Kotarusman with a great bid. That's a turn. Australia go back the other way. Very close to sealing out this point. Upton's got a smile on his face. He wants it. Finds Foster. Cooper nearly shuts down the reset. Foster keeps it off the ground, despite the pressure from Walker. Puts one up, a miscommunication. The layout's not enough for Upton to get it. The ball back in New Zealand's court, an opportunity here. A long field ahead of them, but a 1-point lead. The drizzle's starting again. Swinson's got it. Hayes has the separation and the possession. And a travel called. And just a little bit of communication there about that travel call. Kotarusman called travel on Hayes, who tried to re-establish a pivot and then throw to Swinson. Taifa unsure as to whether or not that was all copacetic, but it appears to be good. Swinson with the disc now, asking for cuts to happen. The stall's getting high. Douglas with the disc. Ellington wanting to dominate that deep space. Runs through the disc. That's an opportunity for Australia to work back the other way now. Great territory there. If not a score, at least good field position for the defense to put the pressure on. The disc has been gently placed on the ground as Upton ties his shoes. It's not a turnover, as a player who intentionally places the disc on the ground just has to pick it up again. There's definitely a call on that. Did look like the Australian receiver had possession of the disc. And Lewis's bid stripped it from his hands, so that's an accepted foul. The possession remains with Australia. The disc's been checked in. Upton doing well to find space. Works with Kotarusman back across the field. Quick swings, trying to generate some momentum. Taifa pressured by Swinson. Very active on the mark, but he's aiming to shut that one down. There's the forehand. Lewis with a great position. Threads one through, finds Swinson. To Walker, back to Lewis. Cooper wide open in the downfield space. Hayes is there with the disc right on the end zone. Puts one up, tries to find Lewis. It's outside of his reach. So Upton comes down with it with a big backhand hook. It's going the full length of the field. There was no chance. He wasn't going to get that, but a touch on the disc. Brent Douglas recovers, generates that turn. Wide open. Douglas with a slash cut across the front of the handler space. Trying to signal for Swinson to take some yards. Lewis with good separation manages to get the disc on the near sideline. The stall count getting a little bit high. Faking off Hayes, trying to get some movement happening. Swinson pressured by Taifa. Nice little blade, finds Ellington near sideline. A low forehand, finds Cooper. Walker trying to do a little juke, get the separation from Foster, but it doesn't happen. Lewis has it, puts it up, looking for Douglas. And a great score by New Zealand to go 12-10. New Zealand now up by 2. New Zealand up by 2, game to 13. This could very well be the last point for New Zealand to walk away with the second win in their 3-match series against the Australian Thunder, the under-20s. A timeout has been called. This could be a crucial moment for both teams. Australia need perfection moving forwards. New Zealand, just as likely, cannot afford any mistakes. They know this Australian side are competitive. They know they're evenly matched. Any errors New Zealand might make from here on out will be punished by the Australian side. The situation, the game demands perfection. There's Douglas with the pull. It's long. Great work. Upton and Moss pinned down in their own end zone. Great work by Douglas to isolate that cut. But Moss gets up line, puts one up just in front of the camera. Great touch by Cooper to stabilize or destabilize that one. And great reflexes by our cameraman Rex to not have his head taken off. I know I said to give Alti TV your coins, but I was talking about the ones we can exchange for goods and services. 1 point away from victory. Swinson puts one through, finds Cooper. Moss getting busy on the mark. Cooper's able to reset to Douglas, finds Woodward right on the doorstep. Big hammer to finish. There it is. What a conclusion to that match. What a great score there by New Zealand. Going 13-10 after cap. A tight game. Only 3 points in it this time. An amazing performance by the Australian side to push them as much as they did. To be ahead for most of the game, but great grit on display by New Zealand to pull it back and clinch the win. Some fantastic ultimate from both of these teams. My goodness, I am speechless. I've got nothing left to say other than
Thank you for joining us here in Tamaki Makaurau. We have one more game for you today in our 2022 Trans-Tasman series, New Zealand, Australia and Japan, here at Auckland Grammar School, supported by Alti TV. My name is Blair Munro, and if you like events like these, check the link in the description, buy a virtual ticket to an event like this. It does help us out a lot, having that fundraising support for our youth ultimate players. Until the next one, thank you very much.